because we record every other meeting with video, and that's what we've been, we cannot deviate from that.
Brian, says the speaker's not working properly now.
That's a violation of the meeting. Cannot
I think we should call the attorney, because I think we can do it if we, I don't think you have to have.
Go ahead and call the attorney. Yeah.
Because we do have video on this, but if our speaker's not working correctly, then it kind of, I'm just not able to use that video for some reason. I'm not sure.
We should be able to record on the computer.
Yes, so we do have video. There's something wrong with the speaker.
Oh.
That's what, that was the second issue.
Hello, hello. Looks like that's. So, looks like it's.
Okay, so yeah. Looks like we're okay.
So we can do the camera from the back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi Megan, quick question. We're about ready to start a board meeting. I'm here with the board. This is Patron. And if we normally Zoom our meetings, but we're having technical difficulties, can we still hold our meeting even though we aren't able to get it video? It's noticed. How is it noticed?
That Zoom call.
It's noticed for both.
We do have some video, so.
It's not required by law that they be, there's no way to get it posted or to get the Zoom or whatever working.
No,
We do have,
this is the clerk.
hi Megan, so we do have limited video. It's not as good as our normal video, and it looks like we have sound. So I guess I can ask some of the patrons if they can hear us okay.
Oh, yeah, so it's just not as good of quality as normal?
Correct.
Well, I didn't know. Did you? Yeah, when we called you, it wasn't working at all, but it sounds like you have it working now.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
then proceed, yeah.
All right. So after that, we might talk to you tomorrow just to make sure if we need to notice it different, if anything technical happens again.
Sure.
So we know. Okay. Thank you, Megan.
So
Bye.
participants, let me.
It sounds like if you notice it, so what Ramona was saying was right. If you notice that you're going to have to, is what she said before I put it on speakerphone, if you notice it both ways. No, notice like you print the notes. Yep. Oh boy, it's not one thing and another. So maybe to Ramona's point about maybe not recording them, I think that's been on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, so Amy Peterson, I saw that you were on the meeting. If you can text me and let me know that, or email me that you are able to hear us okay, so that we can proceed.
The site it is recording, is it still?
Yes.
Yeah, I can sort of see. I don't know if they can see that, but.
Oh, here I'm looking right in there.
She said yes. She said yes, she can hear us.
We're good.
We're good.
Go ahead and
Okay.
call the meeting to order. It is, computer just went away. Okay, it's 5:10. Thank you all for coming. I apologize for the late start. We did have technical difficulties, and it appears we may still be having technical difficulties. But everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do need to amend the agenda tonight. We need to amend the agenda to add an executive session regarding personnel pursuant to Idaho Code 74-261B. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for that. I'll move to amend the agenda to include the executive session as posted. Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, I will entertain a motion regarding that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Bring a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the mission statements. Trustee Major, would you like to read the board's mission statement?
Certainly. The LJSD Board of Trustees is an elected body of community members committed to serving with honesty and integrity, nurturing a relationship of trust. We hear the voice of our constituents and represent the views of our district. We provide oversight of taxpayer funds through fiscal accountability. We govern through developing, upholding, and advancing policy for the purpose of forging an academic consensus. We create and empower well-rounded citizens while respecting parental authority. We promote individualism, nurture talents, encourage passions, and provide opportunities within the LJSD community.
Thank you. Dr. Meyer, would you like to read the district mission statement?
Sure. The Lakeland Joint School District's daily mission is to maximize student learning. We want to ensure that every student is learning, growing every day, academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally, in all environments, from the minute we pick them up to the minute we take those sweet little germs off. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Amen. Sorry, I was raised Catholic.
Moving on to announcements. Again, I just would like to remind everyone that this is a board meeting held in public, not a public board meeting. Do we have any patron input?
No, ma'am.
Okay. At the last board meeting, there was a gentleman from Timberlake High School that expressed that we were not doing our diligence with regard to COVID, sanitation, masks, etc. Dr. Meyer was tasked with checking in with all the schools to ensure that they're being compliant. Can you report on that?
Yes, all schools are compliant, and in fact, you'll see in the LJSD operational plan that's coming to you. We forgot to approve it last meeting, the parent flow chart, but I also added a piece once I did my checking in. There is one building that is doing isopropyl alcohol instead of the what are called brew tabs, which are the disinfectant, twice a week. Those last for 3 days, so they did that twice a week. And then if you don't do that, you have to do the isopropyl alcohol fogger every day. And then they also do daily cleaning disinfectant. So they're double doing it at every single school. And there's only one that's doing isopropyl alcohol versus the disinfectant brew tabs.
Is that school, does that happen to be Timberlake High School?
Nope.
Okay.
And also, you asked me to check on the masks, and there's masks available in every office.
Okay.
So students should definitely not have to purchase masks on their own. We have an abundance of masks that we have left over from last year, so we have those available in every single office. We have some here, and we can, if anyone needs any, we can certainly, I don't even know where I'm looking, but we can certainly send them out to you if people want. We have a lot of masks, so people should not have to buy them.
Okay, and maybe, so if a teacher were to reach out and say, I need a box for my class, absolutely, you have an event.
We have them. Yes.
Great, thank you for following up on that, I appreciate it.
I have a quick announcement.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to take a moment to congratulate Lakeland High School class of 1991 alumni Brady Dickinson for being recognized as Idaho's Superintendent of the Year for 2021.
Great. All right, so we have no patron input. Report and presentation agenda. First would be staff reports. We have a The Therapy Dog program by Jacob Massey, principal of our awesome.
Guys switched it up on us a little bit, but we're still ready. I want to say first, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and just visit with the board to having a school-trained dog is one of those programs that we're excited about. So I believe, as everyone knows, I'm Jake Massey, I'm the principal over at Garwood. I'm really grateful to be joined today by our art teacher at Garwood, Amy Finkel.
I am Amy Finkel, as Jake said. This is my 14th year in education. I've done kind of a variety of jobs, but I have done everything from a district behavioral support to kindergarten, 2nd, 4th, 5th, and now currently. And this is Timber. She is a 5-year-old golden doodle. And she has her highest rank of obedience balls. She's also a KC registered and has her K9 good citizen certificate.
So we'll talk about this program and our idea for it, but should this get approved and should we be able to adopt a policy to be able to move forward with this, Mrs. Finnegan would be the handler and Timber would be the dog. So we're glad to be able to introduce everybody today. I noticed that on the agenda, it says therapy dog. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those two, the distinction between a school trained dog and a therapy dog, and why we believe that a trained school dog would be beneficial to Garwood Elementary. As you all know, and as we've talked about together before, we're seeing just a great influx of new students to our area, into our district. We see varying levels of academic readiness, especially coming out of the pandemic. And so we are not only dealing with more kids now, but more kids that are on a broader spectrum of ability level. And in addition to just academic ability, also their ability to access their education. In Garwood Elementary, we refer to this ability as readiness to learn. Are they coming with the skills that are required of them to be able to attend to their instruction, persevere whenever it's difficult for them, and basically just have the endurance and perseverance to access the supports that we can provide. And so we're going to touch on this, but we believe that having a school-trained dog is going to help us tackle in a creative, engaging, and fun way some of those challenges that we're experiencing.
So benefits that would come of having a school-trained dog kind of highlight with these 3 areas. So just to kind of walk you through what a day would look like if Timber was in the school. She would come with me every morning, and her main task is just to comfort the students, greet the students. We would meet them out on the playground, just kind of have her present when the school bell rings. We'll be available in the halls, kind of walking around, greeting students. And then she's also available for those students who are having a difficult time adjusting to their learning environment. So she's kind of available to help that transition into the school setting. And then she'll be available through the day as well. She will be in my classroom when I'm teaching art and available to all students who are comfortable with that. And she will have expectations as well as the students as far as not being a distraction in the classroom, but more of a support in the learning environment.
Yeah, we know there's an abundance of research out there to support that animals really do a great deal of stress relief, right? Like whenever they are even just in our presence, even if they're not right next to us, that really impacts the environment. And that's our goal here, is we want to continue down the track of our belief at Garwood, where we are providing the best possible learning environment for students. And so we believe that adding this element can be helpful. Mrs. Finnegan is going to touch at the beginning here, and then I'll wrap it up. We do want to make a couple of clarifications and talk about how a trained school dog is different than a therapy dog, and how we'll talk about how we plan to use Timber.
Different than a therapy dog in the sense that we're going to focus on the academic benefits that she will bring for the students and focus on the readiness to learn. So some benefits through the research and different programs that school-trained dogs can bring is increase in attendance, help with problem-solving skills, help in overall adjustment to the ready-to-learn state, increase positive mood to educational environments, and also helping with educational breaks for students who are having difficulties. So for example, having a reading buddy, if a student needs a break and keeping their focus on educational things.
Awesome. Yeah. I've had the opportunity to visit and just walk around Garwood with Trustee Thompson a couple of different times. And so I know you and I have talked about how important it is to me and to our staff that the school experience, especially at the elementary level, is fun. And we want kids to look forward to coming to school every day. And so we design a lot of different programs so that we are engaging kids so that they want to be there. And still, and this is normal in elementary schools, we have kids who are difficult to get in the front door every morning because they want to stay with their parents. And we have students who are discouraged by the fact that school is very difficult for them. And so we're looking for ways to wrap around those students from the angle of providing the support for everyone. And that's probably the biggest difference between a school-trained dog and a therapy dog is instead of first targeting the individual students in need of support, we know that this is just going to be an environment change that every student will have the opportunity to experience. And then from there, as Timber and as Mrs. Finicum are available, we'll push in to help support those individual students as they need it. One kind of logistical difference that we want to note is that there's a much different level of training required. For a school-trained dog, we believe that we have a dog who is adequately prepared with just the good citizen certification, whereas if she were to be a fully certified therapy dog, it would require a great deal of additional certification that is ongoing because of just the difference in level of crises that the dog would be responding to. Okay. So I have included here a few different policies for the board to take a look at. The first policy here is from ISBA. It's a model policy on use of animals just in any educational program. So this is not specific to dogs. In fact, it reads pretty generic, I would assume on purpose, so that it covers a broad spectrum of needs in different schools. But this would be a great place to start. The school district that we actually are modeling our idea for this program after is where I came from in Southern Idaho, the Kimberly School District. Adopted a policy a couple of years ago on school-trained dogs, and this is the policy that we would propose modeling after. It does talk about the purpose of the dog, how it's a goal-driven program, and it also talks about the requirements for training for the dog and for the handler. And then just for the sake of comparison, I also included what seemed like the most robust policy I was able to find on an actual therapy dog. And so again, that would be the most restrictive policy, one that we're not after necessarily, but I felt it important for you guys to be able to see that spectrum. Okay. If you care to do your own research and look into this, just a simple Google search of school-trained dogs or therapy dogs in Idaho will bring up just myriad of results. And we have lots of schools locally even that utilize programs similar to this and found great success with it.
Do you want me to cover the cost?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
So the cost for a program, if you're starting it from kind of the ground up, Timber already has a lot of training and certificates, so that part has already been done for her. But if we were to model this program and then we'd like to get it into other schools, costs would include, a puppy, unless a person already has one that they're willing to train. Timber is a golden retriever and a poodle, which tend to be very smart dogs, and so they do cost a little bit more, anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, depending on that. And obedience classes, they're $150 for the basic level obedient classes, and they go up to level 5. But really, for this program, basic training with 1 or 2, I believe would be suffice for that. The AK K9 Good Citizen training is $350, and then just having this basic needs at the school environment covered, so dog bed, food, and making an area for restroom.
We're really fortunate at Garwood that the Finicums have provided a dog and provided the training. And so it's just great for us because as a school, if we get the green light to move forward, we are ready to start this program tomorrow. And so we're really grateful to you guys for doing that. Moving forward, to make this sustainable, we would want to have a conversation and possibly even recommend that it lands in the policy if we adopted one. Some provisions for basic needs of the dog, even outside of school, some veterinary services and things like that, just so that we're helping support who we are essentially benefiting as having as a staff member. Oh, okay. I think this is the end. What questions can you answer?
I have a couple of questions. So was there any parental survey, guardian survey done at Garwood to see what the parents' response would be to such a program?
We've not done a survey yet. But we would be happy to do that. The plan that we have discussed, should we have permission to move forward, is we would essentially send out a survey then and just say, hey, this is our plan moving forward. And rather having parents say, no, I don't want to do that, we would make accommodations for those families and those students who did not want contact with the dog.
So when it comes to my next question, accommodations for staff and students, whatever it might be, allergies, how will we accommodate them who can't, for health reasons, be around animals,
Yeah.
dogs, cats? I mean, I know there's a lot of allergies out there anymore. So how do we accommodate those students and the staff that cannot be around the dog?
That's a great question, and one that we don't want to fall to the wayside because, like I said, the environment is important to us, and this whole program would be ineffective if we were isolating or just creating a new group of people that felt like they couldn't connect. In that scenario, we do have lots of staff members throughout the day who are capable of working with Mrs. Finicum to move the dog or house the dog in a different location and make sure that they're providing accommodations for the fact that Timber would be housed in the art room. We would just make sure that there's a secondary location for the dog while those students still got to experience art like every other student.
And she is also a hyperallergenic breed.
People that are allergic know that's just a nice term.
Yeah.
But
But as far as like the shedding and that.
Yeah,
That
some
it's even
people
more
would-
topics.
some people would not be able to be in the same building just because of the ventilation. The allergies are that severe, so that's my question. I don't know if we even have anybody like that, but
Sure.
I thought I would ask. And then in your experience, we can go back and look at the policy, like you said, at Kimber and all that. Do you know, and maybe Dr. Meyer might know, district liability? Are you familiar with any kind of program like this? Or?
We did use it up in my last district, and it wasn't anything as long as parents were aware that there was a dog, kind of like the peanut allergy pieces we have. Similar to what Jake already did kind of describe. As long as you pre-warn everybody that that's the environment that's going to be built.
And then what if there was, some type of incident? Do we have insurance to cover the animal being on premise?
Yeah, we would probably have to add that to,
question.
we would probably have to add that to our insurance. And I know that several districts have done this before, so I'm sure that's already figured out by a different district.
Yeah, I believe our policy would cover it, but we could certainly reach out and make sure.
Right, yeah, and I'm sure we would do that with due diligence. I just don't know if anybody had any experience with that. I think those were the only questions I had. Appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Would you guys like to meet Timber?
Here's Louise.
New place for sure. Janelle, thank you for coming home.
Doodle.
Thank you. My dog's gonna be so jealous.
The same kind with the retriever beagle?
No, mine's an Australian, so
Oh.
it's littler and brown. Thank you for letting me pet you.
Keep this sweetheart.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good. I'm all joy. Sorry. Thank you.
Right.
So this was on the last board agenda, and this was the employee responsibility regarding student harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So the board wanted to make sure and have feedback. I think you have your second reading tonight, and where it says admin feedback, it's really staff feedback. We gave it to all the staff. Every staff person had an opportunity to come back, and you can see principals put it together, and then Dr. Hasley put it into the spreadsheet for the board to view. Really, people are in agreement with it overall.
Is there any way we can work on when we take the Google Doc and we make it a PDF that all words are visible?
Oh,
Because it happens often.
okay.
I mean,
Is it when it's a spreadsheet, Chairman Thompson, or is it only, you know how if it's a doc, the links still work, but if it's a spreadsheet, sometimes it goes off the end. Is that what you're saying?
No, like on this particular PDF, which I realize is a spreadsheet, one of the cells is broken between two pages and you can't quite read it. But sometimes when it's captured and this, it will run off and it's not part there.
Okay.
So just that's all.
We have to just wrap.
No, yeah, you can do a
Wrap.
Wrap your.
Well, it's the way it's the page break, and so it wouldn't have shown, I didn't do the PDF version, so I didn't know it converted to that, so, we could either do a space or a wrap will help, so it's easy fix.
We'll double check that with Janelle before we upload, because we do it, we think it's gonna look good, but then sometimes board puts in.
I know.
Yeah, so we just need to double check those when we have the
And
handbook.
sometimes it depends on it, how, you have it at 100%, 75%,
Oh,
right,
25%,
right.
that matters too, so we just need to make sure when we PDF it, that it's at a view that is more contained, you can always make it larger.
Yeah, okay, that's good feedback.
Thank you.
The board asked about following up with attendance, so CFO Wallace did this for us. This is his spreadsheet. He's available. Both of us can answer questions. It's hard to see up here, but you obviously have it on your computer. He is going to start, we think it's a great thing to do, and we won't know until the December Office of State Board of Education meeting whether we're going to go back to enrollment or whether it's going to stay on attendance, ABA. But he does report in his first meeting of the month when he does the finance report on the enrollment. He's going to add this in now and start giving you the attendance as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because we're at the same spot, flip flopping, one month we gotta see this, one month this is.
Yeah, it was great that you asked, Trustee Grissom.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So in case you're watching, if anyone's patrons are watching, it's hard to see this, but it says 93.37, which was as of October 22nd, but
Well,
thank you, Mr. Wallace.
so when I'm doing this report, it's truly because of attendance is aggregate, and I'm not able really to run reports like that. So that's just a snapshot in time for October 22nd.
Oh,
So October 22nd, we were 93. Maybe we were 95 2 days before, and we were 89 there.
Right.
But so it's just sort of a snapshot in time. Just so you know, typically, historically, we've always been around 95, 96. So for that day, that's actually better than I expected. That's actually good news, but it's still lower than historical.
So for this snapshot, the enrollment was 4,200 or 4,724, and attendance was 4,411,
Yes.
which is 93% of the projected enrollment, or what, the kids? we actually
Of the
have.
enrollment of that day.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. So when I do it next month, I did this on a Friday, so I'll do another Friday of, whatever day it is before the board meeting. And so I'll just be doing those days and we'll sort of give us an idea.
Okay.
But we are down our enrollment because we're telling people not to come sick and we're not doing any incentives. So our enrollment, our attendance is down overall this year.
And we're hearing from districts from, we've talked even some in the Boise area, but locally here that, many of the numbers we're looking at are about 85%. And that, for Idaho school districts, that's really low. But obviously, COVID is changing everything, at least, for now. Hopefully, that'll start turning around. But anyway, that's, so 93 was better than I thought I'd see, so that's good for us.
Thank you, I appreciate that, that's great to see this.
We had talked about this before, so Danielle, who is the HR assistant, actually put this together for us. And it just gives you can see the snapshots in time down at the bottom. And she's doing a daily. The total absences is the blue line on top. And again, we were telling people not to come to school and not work when they're sick. So it's higher than it's ever been in my 29 years or 28 or however long I've been doing this is. The red line, those are how many guest teachers we had that could fill. You can see that there is just, I was just wanting you to see that there's a huge gap that we have. And then the filled is the yellow. So, unfilled, thank you. So I'm just gonna keep track of this and keep sending it to you on a weekly update and the board update, but I just wanted to share that with you in case you were looking for something different than this, then let me know. We talked about the chambers. The Athol Chamber is $60 a year and they have monthly meetings. So I've asked for the information for that so that we can be in all three of the areas that we serve.
Can you talk to me about the benefits of that, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we talked, were you at the board meeting?
No, I can listen to it. I'll go back and listen.
Well, I'm happy to repeat it too.
No, it's okay, I'll go back.
I just thought maybe I didn't answer it.
No, I'll go
No,
back.
she wasn't there.
It's okay. I'll go back and listen, no problem.
So, we forgot to do an actual approval of the parent flow chart last time. So the two things that are in this for your approval is the flow chart that the parents agreed on and presented on, which was the option, they titled it optional isolation guidance. And then the one edit is what I just referred to earlier. It just says at least weekly, because some are doing it with those deep cleaning are doing it twice a week. So I just put at least weekly so that would be clarified for folks. And then the last thing is, board asked about where were we in our P of A towards the 1.4 million that we did out the ESSER dollars. And I put what we've spent over on the far right. So we have tried to fill all of the amount we asked, but we still are unable to fill ALP, which is the Advanced Learning Program at Twin Lakes Elementary, has still not had somebody fill it yet. Are we getting close? I think we've done 2 sets of interviews so far. So that position is still open.
There's no applicants, so we're just struggling
with that. Humanities, Mr. Everlin at Timberlake High School has some applicants, and that he's going to open it up at the semester. If he tried to do it now, he has to shuffle his whole master schedule, and it's very, very hard to do, very cumbersome. And parents and students do not like that because your entire master student body, it all changes the entire master schedule. So at the semester, he is adding that in so that he doesn't have a few elective classes that have 30, regular 30 plus, so this will help alleviate with that. But he does have applicants now, so this is more of a staffing personnel issue than it is us, it's not a money issue, it's that. And then the 0.5 math, we have a teacher teaching on the prep for math right now, but it's not filled yet. And that still remains open, correct?
Yes, and there is a possibility that we could fill it with a long-term guest teachers and who wants to intern and has a degree in both math and physical science. And do what we have done with some of those other hard to fill positions, starting next semester.
You can see the classified is all filled, our new nudie was filled, the volleyball coach at Timberlake Middle School was filled. We have the teachers teaching on the prep. There's other ones that were the other piece or semester 2, that those were the big bubbles were for semester 2 that they're gonna be used for. We've expended all the other pieces, the teacher technology, the Chromebooks, the phones and licenses for the classroom phones for safety and communication. 2 of the pods have been delivered, 1's on the way. Mr. CFO Wallace has done that. Our building budgets, he added those amounts per student that he typically does. He did that. And the curriculum, furniture, and materials. So the only thing we're really missing, so the total that we have not spent is out of the 1.4 is 175,000 for the 2.5 FTEs that we're still waiting on. And then the teaching on the prep is 21,250. That's the amount we haven't spent.
Good, so basically everything that was asked for has been within the month's time. Has it been a month since we did this?
More than
Just
just month,
over.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, so all those things that could be met, have been met, we're waiting on bodies.
Yes.
That's the thing, okay. All right, perfect.
And who doesn't have their pod yet, pod storage container?
Betty Kiefer and John Brown, I think, are the ones that are sharing that one as well.
Yeah, and this is gonna be delivered to Betty Kiefer. But yeah, I think next week.
Okay, did I get anyone more added? Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business. First, we have the audio visual information for the board room. I'm not yet being able to pull this up. So, oh, there it is. Yay.
I pulled it up.
Yeah.
That was weird.
So Chairman Thompson, members of the board. So I just have a quick, this quick memo and then some brochures of looking at this. And definitely, you know, if we want to have, you know, a higher quality for the, you know, board meetings and presentations, you know, really, I think there's 2 aspects. One, you need the better gear. And when you get to professional grade quality, it's just more expensive. Microphones are $300, and it all just starts going up. And some of the systems where the hubs and how they coordinate it go, you know, likely, you know, like the Shure equipment that I had, just as examples, there's other brands out there. You know, generally those systems, when I looked at some of the prices, to get a formal quote, you had to go through a reseller, so I didn't see, but, you know, they're definitely over $10,000 for that being a wireless system, so we wouldn't have to have so many cords here because the room's not really set up for it. And also you could have, you know, 1 or 2 cameras. You'd want a, you know, a higher group camera than what we have right now. One thing that I think we'd have to consider is depending on how the board and that, you know, could be how you really want to be presented, because you know, many, you know, organizations who do this, and if they have more than 1 camera and they're switching and stuff like that, they do have someone, you know, physically sort of running the control board, correct? I know that happens at Coeur d'Alene schools. They actually have yeah, the county, and so like at Coeur d'Alene in their meeting center, they have sort of a control booth in that building to be able to do where they're behind the scenes if they're going to show the screen, and I believe, you know, they have 3 or 4 cameras that are fixed to either make a wide shot or, you know, shot just on a board member, or if they want to show the screen. So those would be the factors, is that, do we want to do that level and how we might configure that. So definitely, I think we could use COVID dollars for that as far as a reasonable expense, because much of this has been, the remote is a direct response to COVID. So we wouldn't have to use funds that's coming from the state or levy dollars. We could use those federal dollars, and that would be a legitimate expense. And then we just have to know, sort of where the board is on where do we want the end to be, so we can, work backwards and get the equipment and, resources to make it happen. Right. As far as some of the professional companies I had, we actually have, in-house talent with like Chris Jarstad up at Timberlake, who does, Tiger TV and stuff like that. But, if we really went to either Huffman's or Hoffman's, they're pro sound, who they do a lot of that. Of course, you're paying for their consulting, but that's what they do. It's good sometimes to go to people who do it every day, you get a better result.
There is, I don't remember what the name of the company is. It's a local company that did it for the county, because the county, I believe they put in all their audio visual not too long before COVID. It was a direct response from the communities. It's hard to get downtown anymore for a lot of people this far north. We might check that. I don't know. I think being that the other night we made a decision that we were going to decide at the beginning of the year whether we were going to continue on or not. So I think it's good to have the info, but I don't know if we're going to make a decision before.
Yeah, we could certainly, reach out to the county and see who they use. If it's someone, local, that would be great.
Something maybe we can address going forward in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The ISBA convention, we did receive a memo on that from the clerk. Okay, so there's no reimbursement for any part of the convention, as opposed to, I think previously it was 50%. Is that
They have reduced the virtual attendance fee now.
okay?
To $300. I put that in.
Oh, okay.
So we have until tomorrow to make any adjustments to virtual attendance.
Then I would consider, if I didn't want to pay the taxpayers to pay that much money when it was just going to be virtual, I feel like that would be a lot, for them to charge the same amount for virtual that they were for in person.
But that money that's allocated by the legislature doesn't, theoretically it comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, but the $6,600, is that, or is it only a portion of that?
Yeah, she said it was not.
So whatever the state would have normally provided as a reimbursement, the state had notified ISDA that they would not be doing that for virtual attendees. If you were in person, yes, they would.
Okay.
But virtual attendees, no. So then ISBA did send, as of the 27th, a notification saying, basically because of that, we're going to reduce the cost of virtual attendance to the $300. So in essence, we are getting a discount, but we're just not.
Do we know who from the state?
No, I do not know.
That would be interesting, especially in the current climate that we're in. And okay.
So do we know where we stand with people attending the conference?
As of right now, I still have the 4 of you going, and Dr. Meyer had said no, but that was prior to her knowing that the reduction in cost. So now I'm understanding that you would like to be added.
Well,
before we end myself.
Yeah, I didn't realize we weren't gonna get any reimbursement. The legislature said here's $6,600 to pay for these trainings, and now
Choosing
that's why
what
I said I
trainings.
would like to know who at the state decided that the legislative statutory provision was not gonna be followed. So if, maybe you can find that out, maybe you can ask them who at the state made that decision. That would be interesting.
So at this point, do you all still want to participate in a virtual format?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
And you would like to be re-added?
I'd like to find out tomorrow what, I want to do a little research with you to find out. I just want to be careful about them. If we're all watching it virtually and we're not really costing them anything, we're not going to get reimbursed.
Yeah, I agree.
Curious about that.
Yeah, can you let us know that? I would be interested to know that also, Dr. Meyer, what you find out.
Yeah, I want to be responsible as well. So I'm not gonna.
It's weird how we just changed this year and it's always. Okay, so then we just.
Next item up is the review form for suggestion box on the board page of the website.
And that's that other thing on the top.
So Dean was able to help me create this form, but I wanted the board to kind of review what the form looked like and what information we would like provided on the form for people to do suggestions. This was for the suggestion form.
Okay. So,
I wasn't able to pull it off, so
okay.
it was in a virtual format, then it was easier to show you.
Are you wanting it to be anonymous or do you want to collect their email address? That will be the first question. Because you can change it to this was anonymous and then anybody can give you suggestions. Otherwise, this one, how she has it, it's keeping track of who's.
Is it possible to make it optional? Because I don't want people to not give feedback because
It absolutely
they
is.
either have to be one.
They can. I can choose.
And we just came up with some rough categories, just so something would be in there, so if people prefer other things in there or something to be changed from there.
I think it's done, well, I think you might want to add extracurricular as a category. So parents, I mean, instead of just an other. Not even extracurricular activities. Yeah, we do.
And then there's just a place for them to expand on that.
Oh, okay.
Because I was looking for a way of, if, for example, we had 1,000 different suggestions, how would I be able to narrow it down to something specific? So that's when we came up with a category by which to put their suggestions under.
Okay. And then how would this be given to the board? Like in a spreadsheet, like? Okay.
I would be the administrator of it, and I would be able to pull the information, categorize it, and present it to you.
Okay. Does the board book not have the ability to create a form?
I am still learning for a book, so I am not aware.
Okay.
I think this though is going on the website.
This is on the website under the board.
Right, but board book is public also. My concern with Google Forms is that it tracks everything and everybody. And if you're logged into your browser and you have a browser profile, which happens to be Gmail, whether you decide to put in your name or not, it's going to record the email address and the IP address of whoever touched the form.
We could use SurveyMonkey. Remember, we got SurveyMonkey. We could use that instead of Google.
I like the forum and all that, but I'm just really cautious about having, especially in the current climate. I know that there was a lot of hacking down south with a group, that an education group, and they used Google Forms. That's, I mean, it's just not very secure, but that's,
We can use.
That's my
SurveyMonkey.
background.
We have the district has a subscription to SurveyMonkey, and that's how we do all the 360s. So we can do that and then it will collect it.
or if we can, something just so it's a little bit more, if we truly want them to remain anonymous. Well, have we ever
Feel
had any,
confident that they're
right,
remaining. Have we ever had any problems with SurveyMonkeys, like losing 360s or anything of that sort?
Not that I'm aware of. Okay. What are you aware of something that we lost?
I was under the impression that a personnel member's 360s were gone, that they just disappeared. So I don't know if that was, I didn't know if that was a continuing problem or sort of a one-off situation or first-time user, I don't know.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I like the form, and I like the categories, and I just like that people can say, hey, this is great, hey, what about this, or, that they have a way to, other than just the email, right, so you're not digging an email trying to find it. And there might be a way to make the form a little bit more anonymous and secure, you might ask tech about that. I just want to make sure that if we're telling people it's going to be anonymous, then it's actually anonymous.
Dr. Meyer, with SurveyMonkey, are we able to keep a repository of the survey? Is it housed within SurveyMonkey, or does it?
Yep, and then you can also export it in the CSV, which is Excel, then up to yours, and you can save it that way, so you know it's, anything happens, you're having it in your file.
Okay.
And that's how you can share it with more people.
Any other feedback?
No, I think it was good, yeah. Thank you.
Next, we have review policy update alert feedback form for website. So the clerk's asking for clear direction on what the board desires for this process. Policy update alert feedback.
So there was initial statement request about having, like, example, the dress code. It was a hot topic. Do you want something, I noticed on one website that there was like a bullhorn and then a ticker tape that went across about some information that you wanted to catch an attention of. When I was trying to work with technology, they suggested a pop-up anytime anybody went onto the website. So I just wanted to get clear direction on what your thoughts were before I proceeded with anything further.
Because I thought we talked about the pop-up. Like because we do pop-ups now on the websites already for stuff, yeah. I'm fine with the pop-up.
I think they're frustrating.
I think so.
But
That's the point.
Yeah, right. It's getting the message there. And you can choose to not show it again.
No, I know that,
So-
but the thing is when you see it, I mean, if you're annoyed, to me, any pop-up, it's like, and I'm not reading it, because it's an annoyance. If it's something that's streaming just straight across, it catches my eye and then I'll pay attention to it and then it goes away. So, I mean, it's just, I guess, personal perception or preference. So if we want to do the pop-up, so be it. But I think
So is the option a banner or the pop-up? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I asked about a banner, but it was suggested to me to do a pop-up. So
so we don't know if we can do a banner?
I am not clear on that answer.
Okay. Okay.
I would imagine a webmaster can do just about anything.
Well, I think it would also depend on what the site would allow. I don't know. We all know my tech savviness is pretty non, so.
Mr. Wallace, do you happen to have any knowledge?
No, I mean, we're using that, the content management system, that is a product that you're buying, so it's gonna have certain capabilities.
Right.
Whether, it obviously has pop-ups, because we've had that before for registration and things. whether it has a scrolling banner, or they can have that as either a custom feature or as part of their base package, I don't know. We could reach out.
Yeah, and that would be, the other thing is to make sure that we're hitting all the schools' websites and not just the, I don't know if they've propagated pop-ups across all the schools when we do it or how. Because I don't know that parents actually go to, they might just go to their school website and that's it instead of the district.
If we want to make sure we get, I think it was in her memo, we want to make sure we notify parents. Best way is to go into the principal's monthly newsletter that they get. Because some of them don't go on the website as much, but they do open the principal's newsletter. So I think that would be good. We can also secondarily put it on the district's website and the school website. But I think in the newsletter, saying we're looking for parent feedback would be the most chance of getting the parents to actually look at it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it does state notification will come from the superintendent first. I don't know if that was something we had decided or if that's what we're to consider.
That was what my understanding was, so that's why I wanted clarification on how this would happen before I didn't want to just have a random pop-up up there and then people are going, what? So that's why I wanted to present the discussion so that I can understand the clear direction.
Okay. So it would seem that the superintendent would then alert administration, and then it would go out from the administration level, and then go on the website. Or sites.
But I think if the board wants to get more parent feedback, I think that would be the highest amount of parents would see it if that's the way we did it. If they aren't going to read it as much from me as they will from the principals.
Right.
So, I'm sorry to be asking continuous questions, but if we put it in if we send it out to the principals and they put it in their newsletter, is there a link directly in the newsletter, or will they be directed to the website for the pop-up?
Yeah, they'll be directed, it doesn't have to go to the pop-up, it can go directly to the link to this, like the Survey Monkey, where they will put their answers in there.
So would we have both locations, or would we just do it through the administration
You
communication?
can give the link out in any number of locations, and I think that we can even text it to them, and then it would go to that actual where the Survey Monkey is, and so this is the 3255, we're gathering feedback on this dress code. And here's the, and then that would be the
So
one,
there-
we have it all in one place.
So there would not be a pop-up on the website on the.
Well, we could add that if you like, and it could still go to the same spreadsheet that collects that parent feedback for you to give to the board.
Because that's coming from the district, it doesn't relate policy or legislative statute.
I think Dr. Myers is probably in the best position to know what works best for communication. It's just the board's duty to do it and say, here, we've done it, please communicate that. And I think Dr. Meyer and the administrators can figure it out. I don't really think it's in the board's purview to decide all these things or discuss.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we did receive a response on board book. It was about the permission due to updating board book, because apparently we have a lot of missing links and missing documents. I just went to another past board meeting and nothing's there. I mean, you open it up and the information's there, but there's nothing attached to it. Everything's gone. So that's not a good thing.
How recent was that board meeting?
It was September 2020. So it was in the past, but I've also checked out meetings from 2016 and attachments are there. So it's not a good impression. But it does look like Mr. Wallace provided information that we're not in a signed contract with board book. So I don't know if it would behoove the board to consider something else. I don't know what else is out there. I know ISBA has affiliations with different things. I know that we did spend a significant amount of money, in my opinion, on the board book that we upgraded to just this last year. I don't know, is that something we have to pay annually?
Yes.
Oh, it is? When is the annual contract?
And I know that we looked into board docs, which is the one that we sometimes get things through, and that was as much, I don't know the new cost, Mr. Walsh will have to talk to this, but the board docs was like 10 times as expensive, but it was really user-friendly, a lot easier to use. I don't know if it saved docs, it might be the same problem. I just know that the prior clerk had said, oh boy, is this nice, because they'd done a demo, but it was like 10 times as expensive. It was definitely, we decided not to do it at that time, but we could certainly have Janelle research that.
Well, Mr. Wallace, do you know when our contract is over for the year?
The annual.
In the past year, since I've been here, we just receive a renewal invoice.
Okay.
And we pay year by year. I
Right.
think we've received it for the start of this year. I'd have to take a look in the system, but
I just recall.
top of my head, usually it's, in that summer, early fall, at the start of school year, you sort of renew. So we pay for the year effectively.
Right.
You don't have to use it, obviously, but we don't have like an ongoing 5-year agreement with them that I'm aware of.
Right, I was just curious if we had renewed already for the year, so we're like in month 1 or 2 of the new subscription, or if we're in.
I believe so.
Month 11 or 12.
Yeah, no, I think they sort of hit right around, since most
That's
school
what I
districts,
recall.
that July 1
Yeah.
timeframe.
Okay.
So certainly something to bring up on this. I think it's very interesting. We can schedule demos. I mean, we can, as the board, even we can have a workshop and schedule a demo, and they can show, the clerk and Dr. Meyer, whomever, what it was, and we could, if we wanted to take the time, look at the other surrounding districts throughout the state, if then we come across a layout that we like, that we thought, oh, this looks pretty good, or easy to follow, user-friendly. I think Lane uses Blackboard for theirs. I don't remember what Post Falls was using, but yeah, we could always do that too. If we were interested, then you would still have the issue of data conversion. We'd have to put it in a new system, and you get what you get, kind of thing. We might be in the same spot.
Well, I would think we could, as part of the negotiation, could be like, you need to get us up and running with the documentation that's there, and not the burden on our staff, so that's. I would think there should be room for negotiation in that. Okay, so we should relook at this probably, like, I would say, first part of the year maybe, so we don't end up buying a whole nother year. Again. All right, so we have information on the ISBA census regarding the trustee zones.
They don't know either. What?
They don't know either. I just don't really get how this reads. At this point, Lakeland believes that the outside boundaries of your district are not accurate with the map we sent you. And this is a response from Karen.
Did we get a map from ISBA?
So from what I understand from Chrissie is the map that they sent us to review did not match at all to what we have for us. So then Chrissie had to send them our current map from 2011, I think. And so then it had to go to the state for reconciliation.
Can we get a copy of what they sent, the map that they sent?
I can.
Yeah, that would be great, because I haven't, and you see.
I haven't either. What I do remember, and Brian, clarify if I'm wrong, but I don't think it had anything to do with the outside boundaries. What Chrissie told us before she left was that the outside boundaries are the outside boundaries. Like, here's the outside of Lakeland, here's Coeur d'Alene and here's Post Falls. Like the outside is not where any conflict was. The way that it was inside with the 5 zones was with it. It was different than the one that Karen sent up here. She said it looks different. And Chrissie believed, and I don't know if she knows or not, but she said, how can ours be wrong when an engineer did ours? And she has no idea how the state went. So then she was on the phone with Karen, and then now you've been on the phone with Karen?
I've just communicated with her in email, and she said just sit tight until we hear back from the state.
Yeah. You can get us a copy of the map so we can see it, because then my question would be, was it a boundary line adjustment because of the change in the population in our area? Is that what the map was representing, or?
So back in 2011, the census had came out, there had been, 2010 maybe. And then there had been a significant change in those populations and the zones. So we did hire GP Stravens to go ahead and rezone everything. And he is also the one that was responsible as far as any kind of filings and things like that. We do have the minutes of everything that did take place. And so the state, for whatever reason, or ISBA, I don't know, they just have the wrong map. It's not the one that was approved in 2011.
Were you the clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why she knows.
Okay. Well, have you reached out to Tracy Bent at the State Board of Education?
No, because of that, it was I do not have her email.
I can get that.
But Karen said, just please hold tight until you hear from Tracy or.
Correct. She's saying, hold tight until you hear back from me or Tracy. But I also know, having experience, that things go by the wayside.
Okay.
So a little prompting of, hey, what's going on? And I think if you call the State Board of Education and speak with Tracy, maybe you can get a little bit more forward focused on her radar, just so that we kind of know where we're at. Because
So I guess my other,
sorry.
it's my other thing, outside of the map, I would really like to see any emails and documentation, anything that has to do with this, because the board is not apprised of anything, and it is the board's business. So obviously it was handled without the board's seeing anything, so I would be curious as to what it was, and what it looks like, and why there's such a huge mess up, which we hired them to fix anyway, so I would expect they would do that. But I think the board needs to see any documentation and emails that pertain to this matter. And to make sure that the state, I guess, Dr. Meyer, do you know that the state would know, is there some grace period or leniency if there's an ongoing issue with this boundary line adjustments based on the census?
To be honest with you, Chrissie was dealing with this directly, so I will ask Jack to get all the emails regarding this, forward to Janelle, to forward to you. And then I thought that Chrissie had talked to Janelle and that they had just passed the baton. I didn't realize that I just sent you Tracy Bent's email so that you could reach out and CC her. So I said here to connect, so now she and you will be connected. And then I will send Jan an email right now to ask for all of those.
Okay, so that brings up another question. So Janelle took the place of Chrissie as clerk. Why does Janelle not have access to Chrissie's email? It should be clerk, she should be able to go in there and get it herself, right? It's the clerk's job.
Yeah, we don't give emails, other people's emails out to anyone. Only the tech person does that. So I can get Chad to forward all of those.
Oh.
I will get him to.
So how would Janelle know? Okay, that sort of concerned me, because how would Janelle then be able to know that there might have been an issue that maybe Chrissie forgot or something? Maybe the people are still emailing Chrissie and it's not going to Janelle.
Chrissie had several rules. All of Chrissie's emails go to Rebecca, who has been trained and cross-trained so that she can divert those to where those need to go. So they don't just sit in a pool.
Okay.
They just get diverted. Any of them that she needs for clerk, she would get forwarded those.
I guess my other thing in that, 'cause it's so very concerning to me. The other thing we need then is we need a clerk of the board email address. Because the thing is if something were to happen to the current clerk, then we'd be in the same predicament. There's no way for anybody to know, except for some outside person to filter through email and decide what the board should see or not see, or what the board is the board's business, because one person taking over another person's job doesn't have access. So that's not good. We need a clerk email address so that.
Yeah, we can easily set that up.
Yeah. So then that way, anything that's personal to Janelle for personnel issues, whatever, that's separate, but.
Yeah.
And that way it could be on the website or something.
I can add that.
A generic clerk, clerk of the board or clerk at whatever. So, yeah, so we can keep that separate.
So Dr. Meyer, will you?
I'm doing that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to board visibility of school calendars. If the clerk needs clarification from the board with respect to the school calendars, because it was appointed that we would like to be at least noticed of what's going on with the different schools, so that we can at least make an appearance, but it's kind of hard when you don't know what's going on. And so she needs to know if we would like to see all events from all calendars on the board calendar, or would we like each calendar to be in the board communication drive per month, or I guess we can subscribe to the calendars ourselves. So
I would say the events in the board calendar. That's the universal preference. Number one.
Because then I would need to go to each school. And I would have to pull that event and then add it to the board calendar. I don't have a way to merge that information.
So the subscribing would be something I would just go and do.
Oh, I can do that. So if you want to subscribe to your district's calendar, or if you want to subscribe to all of the calendars, that would be completely up to you. And then at any time, you can see their calendars.
okay. So your statement, would you like each calendar to be in the board communication drive per month? Trustee Major, as I understood it, said, yeah, she'd like calendars in there, but then your response back to her was, you'd have to go and pull each item off of the calendar and put it on the board calendar.
I thought I heard her is that she would like it to be in the board calendar.
Yes, that is what it said.
Oh,
Her
is it?
statement was in the board calendar.
In the board calendar.
Oh, okay.
So each month,
I didn't hear her.
So each month I could do a clip of each calendar and put it into the board communications folder, or you can subscribe to those respective calendars that you would like to see.
Okay.
So just let me know what.
Okay. Does anybody have any input on that?
I would rather them not be put in the board calendar, just because that's too much. That's too much. I would rather just subscribe personally, individually to the each calendar.
Subscribing?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the responsibility would be on each board member to go
It is on
subscribe.
each person,
Okay.
yeah, okay, to do that on their own, yep.
There's your answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Records request procedures. Okay. So.
Then, Kara, I have one more question about the calendars. So for each school, the athletics, extracurriculars, all those things are all on their calendar, or is there, I know that athletics have separate calendars.
Yeah, Timberlake does not put anything on their front calendar, but they do have all of their activities on the athletics page on the calendar on there. So,
So I do, just as a point of information, within the board communications folder, I have loaded all of the athletics calendars, all of winter athletics calendars in the board communication file. They are also within this board agenda as well as an attachment, and all of them are all together in one document. So I have them separately in the board communication folder under winter athletics schedules as well as here. So you know.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of
Yeah, there is. So we need to move on to the records, request procedures. Or do you? No, I have questions. Okay. So with regard to the records request procedures, the clerk is asking how do you keep records, hard copy, electronic, central repository is needed. What is the retention policy? Policy 8605 is dated 8/2016 and needs review. It was not attached to the memo, just so you know.
Oh,
I think she
Oh, wait.
I attached it.
Oh, you've attached it to the other side. Okay, got it.
Because it's a long policy.
Get it. Records within emails of previous employees, access or stored for later use as needed, noting what was produced and sent in response to requests. If they are to be told who is responsible and how should they be told, who gets notified of the request and when, who is notified of response and to what extent. If there is an issue at a district level, who is the point of contact.
Okay, so I think we answered.
Go for it. Chairman Thompson?
Yeah.
I would love to know, I think Trustee Bain was gonna follow through, if I'm not mistaken, if Janelle and I could go through that training with the attorney, that would answer a lot of these. The other thing is, the attorney that we all talked to said that once we get that training, that we should have, that for sure the superintendent and the board should be notified of every public records request. I don't know if that's been happening or not. And then we should, one suggestion that she had that,
I don't recall her saying that the board should be informed of every records request.
and then you had talked about, yeah, that if the board and superintendent would notify the public so that you were aware that these were coming.
Right.
And then something the board could decide to do, which I'm not speaking for the board, but the people that were there were nodding their head, but you would obviously have to all agree on it, put it on the website so that people knew this is what was being requested and this is what was provided. So that that was right on the front end of the website, so that everybody was aware it was super transparent.
Right.
I personally thought that was a great idea, but the board has to decide. And also I think that Janelle might need to go through training to answer some of these from that prosecuting attorney's point of view. It'd be helpful for us.
Could denials be put up there too?
I think that would be.
I think so. I think absolutely.
Every request would be, unless it pertains to, has any production issues that.
I think that's great. Yeah, her suggestion was everything. But it's, and that goes right along with what the AG was saying during the open meeting law video, is that, you know, their stance on everything is quit making people, the public, ask for stuff that they should already have access to.
Yeah.
And if one request is done, boom, it goes to the website, who made the request, because the bottom line is, it's all public record, right?
Right.
I mean, anybody can request, who requested, who didn't, I mean, it could go on and on, so.
So when they come and dig for it, just let them have it.
Yeah, just put it out there, and whoever wants to read it can read it.
I agree.
mean,
That's
you know,
great.
Yeah, I agreed with her, her on that, and that, I mean, that was her suggestion to the board to try and circumvent, you know, she said even the letter that the district was supposed to write, I don't know if we ever did that, about the information that went out that was inaccurate was supposed to be on the website too, she even said that, so I completely agree with that, that just put it all out there.
So for that to happen, the board can either create the protocol, where you would approve it and you would create the protocol, and then we would be following the protocol that you created.
Right.
Janelle and I could go to this training, which we could just go to, with that fine gentleman, I don't remember his name.
Mr.
Barry.
Braden, Pat Braden.
Okay, but we could do that first and then come back, or the board could certainly do protocol, and then they would start to follow, go through the training, whichever you prefer. Whatever you prefer.
I think we need a workshop, we should just make it a board workshop, because he could probably answer a lot of the open meeting law stuff that we.
Yeah, it just needs to be approved by the whole board, right, and he'll provide it at no charge.
Did we not do that last time? Was that not an action item, or was it just a discussion item?
So there were questions, the board had asked a question about if we could get a rough agenda, work on time frame. His response was, now I need approval from your attorney so that we're not like crossing things. So I did talk to our attorney sent him an email directly.
Okay.
So now it's a position of I need to get, doesn't have to be a super formal letter, but I need some sort of a letter from the board to send to McHugh saying, yes, can we please have this training? And then I could work with.
Because Pat Braden works under, Barry McHugh, so he just needs that formal approval from Barry to come and do this, although he's already gotten
Right, okay.
a tentative approval, okay, yeah, go ahead and
All right,
do it.
can you, draft a letter? I guess for my signature, so that he knows that the board would like him to come present, with just some flexibility on date and time. That it would probably be an early evening, workshop. Unless it's something, I mean, I don't really want to do it during the day, but I don't know what his availability is or anything of that sort, so.
Yeah, so just check on.
Is it okay if I connect with him directly?
Absolutely,
So
that
I
would
take you
be
out
awesome, yes, thank you. I don't mind it, but.
Okay, absolutely.
So this is a great document to have in that training. The records request procedures.
Oh, the retention schedule? Yeah.
Dr. Meyer, with respect to the retention of district records, when it talks about electronic mail, the policy simply states that the district will store the emails for a maximum of 7 years, which to me implies that they could be not stored for 7 years, they could maybe be stored for 6, 5, or 4. Have we ever done that you know of?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And I thought it was odd that they chose a maximum of 7 years. I would say it should be a minimum with a maximum. But
That might be
I have no idea. The policy hasn't been updated since 2016. I just know we did look at this because there was a thing about the website that's on here, that it's a permanent record forever. So we had a discussion back in March about that. So
I remember.
Okay, and as clerk, can you report on the correspondence? Did correspondence go out to the person that received or to the patron? Am I supposed to name them? Is that, oh, I guess it's all public record information. The false information that was sent out to the Skubitzes, did correspondence go out to them?
Yes,
That they did receive false information, that it was inaccurate?
Yes, ma'am. Hard copy letter was mailed to the PO box provided, and an email was also sent as a follow-up to make sure that there was 2 forms of communication.
Okay.
When did that go out? And the board didn't receive a copy of that. I thought the attorney said you didn't get one either.
I apologize, I was not aware that the board
Okay, that's
didn't
fine.
have a copy of
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
so I can forward that.
Okay, I appreciate that, yeah. I believe that was an instruction from Amy. Yeah.
ask the board a question?
Yes.
Would it be beneficial if we did a work session to discuss the records request processes once we have our training?
I would say we could probably incorporate it at the same time.
So we'll attend the meeting as well, correct?
So we would be doing, we would all be doing
Yeah.
training.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Well, obviously optional, but that's how I thought it would work best if we all, because then we're all on the same page, we hear the same message, I feel like. And then we can create the protocol and then the board can approve it and we can move forward all on the same page. Yeah, I love it.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, one.
Considering I have been inundated with a number of records requests, is there an interim protocol that you would like me to follow?
Do we not have a protocol for records
I
requests?
don't really have a clear protocol.
Well, we have statute and policy, right?
If I may make a suggestion, in the interim, I feel like what the attorney told us with her providing a notice to the board and CC me, received a public records request, this is what it is. Here's what we came up with and this is what I'm replying back. I feel like in the interim, at least we're all seeing the same thing because all of us have been out of the loop prior to this. So if that's, I think until we get training, that would be, at least what that attorney said was, should be happening.
Yeah, I just want it to be clear that the board is not approving or disapproving what's being given to the public, that it's just, because there was no prior, nobody was aware of any of it. Right? You know, there were things, you know, coming and going that the board was not aware of, Dr. Meyer wasn't aware of. So, I mean, I think, so what is lacking in the policy and the open or the records request statute in the manual that is, I don't know what gap we're trying to fill. It's pretty straightforward.
It's the internal communications, so there really is not a clear delineation of, I do report to the copy the superintendent, and I do copy the board. It's more of an internal processes that are decided within the district.
Okay.
So that's why I just like, which way?
Well, you do have to remember that, I mean, so I guess you have dual hats. The way I see it is that, you know, you've got the clerk of the board, you have the records, and maybe Brooke has experience with this. But as the records records custodian, thank you. You are the top dog there, right? That, because bottom line is whatever happens is going to fall on your shoulders, regardless of instruction somebody gave you, right? You'll answer for it. So I believe that you're going to have, and you know, anybody jump in at any time, but you're going to have to use some personal discretion when you read the request to know if it's something that I can simply, here you go, here's the filling of the records request. Or you might need clarification from Dr. Meyer, you might need clarification from Mr. Wallace or whomever. Obviously anything probably from Brooke doesn't go to the public, but without huge redaction. Right? But I mean, I think that I believe that you have enough personal discretion in that role. And I don't believe that as the person in that role that you answer to anybody in that role, because nobody is going to be kudoed or blamed except for you if it goes south. So I want you to have the confidence in that. If it's something, you know, I mean, I guess it would just depend on what it is. If it's a paper record or electronic record, or, you know, without knowing what the request is, I think you're just going to have to read through it and, you know, that's the way I would see it. I don't know if that's how Brooke would have done it in the past, or I mean, Chrissie's not here to ask.
Well, and historically with the email, anything with emails always goes through technology because he filters it and he does it, and the same person has done it since I've been the IT director, has done that and provides it to the custodian of records, and it's ultimately
we don't know, because none of us have been in the
Yeah,
loop, so we
right.
would assume that's been happening, but
The
we
loop
really
is
don't
not ever
know.
closed yet, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm just wanting
sure.
clear understanding.
There really shouldn't be like any email requests for public records that should come through the form.
No, I meant like if they're
Right,
asking for.
Right. But I'm going back to also when we get those requests or Janelle gets those requests, she's gonna have to seek out department-wise, basically who's responsible for these records. And they're gonna have to work together on it. And the most important thing is, if we're a part of that, we have to see that records request, just so we have, because we have more insight on probably what they're looking for. So we do need to be able to see those records.
And
requests.
right now, that's
I
not,
agree.
that's not happening, we're not seeing
Right.
the records requests.
Right, I agree, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. To make sure that nothing is sent that should not be sent, or that if it needs to be redacted,
Then
it's
that falls on
redacted.
us.
Right, yeah, absolutely, I agree. So I think there's just gonna have to be, my feeling is that there's just gonna have to be a certain amount of your own intuitiveness. Just, you know, yeah, you know. With that, I mean, in my brain, if somebody emails and says, if I'm the records person and they say, hey, I want all the emails you, Miss Records person, sent to, you know, Sam Bob on July 25th, I don't need to go to tech. Because it's my email, I know what I sent to Sam Bob on July 25th, right? I send it to him. Give it to him, and just, you know, I guess make others aware of who it was. I don't see that, but like Brooke was saying, if it's some big, I don't know, whatever, people request from this to that, I think when I was writing their inclusive financial statements, those were pretty detailed on what I was looking for, so that's my 2 cents of it, that's my.
I am cautioned though, because I don't recall the attorney, I don't think that we are just informed records requests have come in. We're not given the records request saying, look at what Bob's looking for, because.
Because that would be on the website anyway, so.
No, I understand that, but I know that what she was specific to was that there wasn't, we didn't want to convey that the board was controlling the records requests.
Exactly, right.
And so we're just noticed, hey, it's come in, and then we have the responsibility to say, to do our own records request and say, you know, look, I'd like to see what went out or whatnot, which would totally stop all of that if they're put on the website so everyone can see them anyway.
Exactly. That's
So,
Yeah, it gives us the opportunity to hop out there ourselves and look at
Yeah.
what was.
yeah, but I mean, I thought that we were noticed if a records request came in specific to the board. I didn't think it was about every single one that's come in.
Yeah, I don't think like if somebody's asking Brian for 5 years of financials, I don't know that.
Yeah.
I need an email telling me
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because I think it's,
You're exactly right.
I just thought she had said, you know, you just give a heads up, hey, a records request has come in regarding the board, end of discussion. And then we have the authority or the ability, excuse me, to do our own records request to see what was gone out, which that can all go away if we put it all on the website and we're very transparent about
Excellent.
that. No, that's fine, I just don't want it to appear that we're doing anything, yeah, that's not appropriate.
So then we work together with the patient on the website.
Okay, so do you have a clear understanding? Okay, and then you're going to forward the letter. Okay, and then was there any response to what we sent that person, the Stipends?
There was an email response, yes.
Okay,
Would you like me to forward that as well?
do you all want that?
I have to think about that one. I might do a records request for it. But I would like to see the letter, that's for sure.
All right, now that we're done with the business, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the previous meeting. There's the 9/21 workshop, the regular school board meeting workshop on 9/27, and the regular school board meeting on 10/14. Thank you for making them more fluid. That is much appreciated. Does anybody have any comments or questions on those?
I don't, but they do look great, yeah.
I did get one clarification to Janelle from the workshop on the intent of the eyesight that she's going to.
So I would just need to correct that one portion and then you could do your signature so that we don't pull up the.
Okay, which workshop?
September 21st, the CIP workshop.
Okay, and what was the correction?
Well, it says that there's no scores, so they're not motivated. It wasn't really, the intent was that instant test results are no longer shown on the screen for any students K-12. That can reduce the motivation for students because they don't see if they've grown or what score they've reached. That was the intent of that comment, and I just didn't know if that was clear. So I just talked to her about it prior to the meeting, so she would understand what I was trying to say there.
Okay. And it was a comment from you? Or?
Okay,
It
was from me.
Okay, so it's the statement Dr. Meyer comments that the testing isn't shown, so high school kids aren't motivated?
Yeah.
That's what you're correcting?
Yeah, that statement.
Okay, so anybody else have any input or question on the minutes from the previous meetings? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and entertain a motion on the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings as listed.
No second that. A motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the HR items. HR Director Cunningham, I just want to thank you for putting resignations in one PDF. That was amazing. Thank you.
Actually, that would be your clerk.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the HR memo or the resignations? And then we also have, okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the HR items. Move to approve the HR items as presented. I'll second that. Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. It appears we have an alternate authorization before us. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding that? All right, then I will entertain a motion on the alternate authorization.
I'll move to approve the alternate authorization as presented.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the stipends. HR Director Cunningham. Is this, I love the format, but is this what we had last month with the exception of the corrections down at the bottom or the additions, I should say?
No, you didn't have these last month.
Okay, so these are all new on top of everything we were presented last month?
Yes. So it's not that they just came about. I had an extremely long list. These are ones that I had to follow up on. I had some confusion on basically the PBIS. There was 2 different stipends for that.
Right.
And so this one was actually for training. What I presented before was actually for participating on the team.
Okay.
And so I put those in there along with my corrections.
Okay, so this $70,975 for stipends is in addition to the thousands we received last month.
Yeah, and I do have that number to you.
What was that number?
954,410.
Okay, so we have over $1 million going out in stipends?
It or so, but that is negotiated agreement stipends, athletic stipends.
It's okay,
Yeah.
I just am trying to.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I didn't want you to be defensive on it, that's.
Oh, no,
I
no, I'm
was just.
just trying to say everything that was included.
Okay, okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the stipends that were represented? Then I'll entertain a motion regarding these stipends.
Move to approve the stipends as presented.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to new business, we have the 2021-22 LJSD Operational Plan Subcommittee recommendation for the optional isolations guidance guide that we need to approve or deny that was presented to us at the last board meeting. Does anyone have any questions on the optional isolation guidance guide that was presented?
It's exactly the same document, right?
Yeah, except for what I just showed you guys in that superintendent report, those at least, and then the.
So then within the operational plan, you made the correction of at least, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so then we do need to approve the operational plan in inclusion of the.
Yeah, in there, what you did last year was if I put anything linked in, you just reapprove the plan. And then everything that I have updated is in that pea green color. And I already showed you the two changes that we made.
Great. Okay. So we didn't approve the updates. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion regarding the 2021-22 LJSD operational plan. So, committee recommendation.
So moved.
Second. Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We have curriculum that's up for approval, or that's, yeah, up for action. These were all on first read, the last board meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments about further discussion on the curriculum? No. All right, then I'll entertain a motion regarding the curriculum.
I will move to approve the curriculum as presented.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to a change of legal representation. Trustee Major, you wanted to address this?
Yes, I was just very discouraged with the way records requests were handled. I'd like to have a conversation about choosing, going in a different direction for our legal counsel.
Okay. Does anybody have any input on that?
I would agree with trustee Major, just from my own conversation with local and told, on the phone, so I think that we should see what other options are out there. Because the other thing that bothers me is that sometimes we get multiple answers to the same question that's being asked. If Dr. asked it, or when the board members asked it, there's
Conflicting.
yeah, it's just conflicting information. And the board will move upon what they were told only to find out that it was incorrect. Right. Or, you know, different things like that. So I would agree that we should probably make sure that we have, I don't know, I think who are with now, most all the districts use.
I question that as an ethical issue, especially like with the land issue we just had. I don't see how that wasn't a conflict of interest. Representing both school districts. I mean, there are ways to do that, but I don't know. I question whether our best interests are at the forefront when you're being paid by both sides of the fence.
Well, I think part of it has been for so long, you know, we're a fairly small community and there's only a handful of representation available.
Right.
You know, but it doesn't hurt to look and to see who else might be out there.
I agree.
You know.
And maybe the attorney who is going to be doing this presentation to us might have some suggestions on people who might have that. We might get some referrals from him possibly.
Well, I can say that the specialty of government representation isn't like, you don't have lawyers all over the place jumping into that realm because it is rather complicated and whatnot. That doesn't mean they're not out there.
Sure.
I just don't think you're gonna find them in the phone book. If anybody uses a phone book anymore. But yeah.
What about iCrib, Dr. Meyer? Do you think that's something that they might have suggestions, or ISBA? Do they have suggestions on that, or?
Well, I know with iCrim that they use, we go through Anderson, Julian Hall, which is in Boise. And that's who comes under iCrim. They have several attorneys there. It's not just one attorney, there's several attorneys there that we've spoken to over the last 6 years, so.
Well, I think it would be more prudent to have them there. If we're going to have local representation, it needs to be someone from here, not from Boise. Because we have two different claimants. We're not Boise.
Right.
So I think it would be more prudent to get someone that's local.
So I guess would be the question.
Yeah.
Who do you call and ask who covers that? Do you experts have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, trustees, honestly, for education law, there's very few firms in the state of Idaho. There really is Anderson, Julian Hall there, probably the most expertise, but they are in Boise, so it's not local. And then really Lyons O'Dowd and Coeur d'Alene is the firm that really, has first worked with NIC, and then got into K-12 that focuses on that. It's just more of a specialized firm. I mean, we had Charlie Dodson, who used to be the district attorney years ago. He was very good and represented Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, and Charlie passed away several years ago. But it really is a specialized thing. You can see that in Eastern Washington. There's really only one firm for the Spokane school districts, sort of in Eastern Washington. So there's, if you want the local representation, somebody who really knows K-12 law, maybe there's something in Lewiston and Moscow. I don't know. We could look at that, but in Coeur d'Alene, I don't know if there's many other options.
Attorney's partner would have representation.
Yeah.
And then we'll put that, I'd like to request for that to be back on the agenda, and then we can talk about what we have next.
Yeah, we can, we'll go ahead and table. I'm gonna make a motion to table the change of legal representation until we have further information with regard to making that type of change. Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We have approval for the employee's responsibilities regarding student harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy number 4265. It was first read at the last board meeting. It's up for approval tonight, or that's up for action tonight. Does anybody have any further questions, comments, or anything with regard to policy 5265? And I'll entertain a motion regarding policy 5265.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 5265 as presented.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the winter athletic schedules. There was a memo included. Apparently the middle school basketball schedules are not included on this list. So we'll be receiving those potentially at the November 11th regular board meeting. But I think it's important to approve, take action on the winter schedules so that we're not holding up any sports, etc. Does anybody have any questions on the winter athletic schedules for 2021? I'll entertain a motion on the winter athletic schedules.
Athletic schedules. Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, that concludes all of our action. We'll move on to discussion items. The first item for discussion is curriculum, with the first read on supplemental resources. Does anybody have any questions? Oh. Yes, Ms. Sexton.
I heard you say you had a question.
Yes. I'm curious on the GIM kit, that looks to be academic games. How is that being disseminated to the kids? Is it on their Chromebooks? How's it going to be used?
It's, my understanding is it's a tool that the teacher actually will use, and so the kids can use their Chromebooks as clickers or, but it's like, it allows them to practice concepts together in kind of a format, is my understanding of it. It's more directed by the teacher.
Okay.
I think it allows for interactive responses as well.
Okay. Just because like we can't really look at it or see anything, who control? I mean, I'm assuming that there's categories based on the few things that I could see. But how do we control the content? Can we?
It's not really content that they're necessarily seeing. It's they can use it for to give to have, if they've got kids working in groups, they can use it to give points in like a class competition as they're doing a review.
Okay.
But the teacher can put in information that that they're reviewing in a game format so that the kids can just gives them opportunities to practice before a test.
Okay.
So, but it is completely controlled by our teachers as far as what goes in there.
So then, I want to make sure I understood you correctly. So if a teacher is teaching a specific content, she can put that information into this and then create whatever game resources she wants for the content she's teaching?
Yes.
Okay. Or he,
Yes.
sorry. Okay, well that makes me feel a little better.
this is, I actually wasn't quite sure, the question came to me, is this something that the board would approve? Because it isn't curriculum, but it's definitely something we're putting in front of kids and they have access to on the computer, so I felt like that I wanted to bring it to the board for conversation.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
On the Evan Moore, are we just looking at the teacher's guides?
Yeah, some of our title programs want to use it, it's just kind of a supplement. There will be some student pages that the students can choose, but it's more a guide.
Those are just a point of clarification. They provide black line masters, so teachers can make copies of those and give them to the students.
Yeah, practice.
Yes.
Those were pretty much my questions. Yeah, I have no questions at this time.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion items on the YouTube. We have a board memo from the clerk. Let's double check that all the videos have been moved to the new location. The account under DJs has been removed. The 9:10 meeting has been requested to move to the LJSD page. There's an error when trying to remove it. Has that been corrected?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You emailed Chad to find out if he has access to Chrissie's YouTube account to remove all the LJSD videos. Does he?
Yes.
Okay. Has that been accomplished yet?
I just sent him notification that the move has been completed and that he, if he could please put that on the schedule and ask for a delivery date. And I have not received word back from him yet.
Okay, but it's in the works.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. The audio issue on 9:23 was due to the clerk accidentally muting the meeting and then correcting it. We're all learning. And so, yeah, the logo slide is just you putting up a piece of paper.
For today, I put it on a clipboard just so that it would be there, but in having a conversation with Dr. Meyer, I'm going to pursue alternatives with our web guy and see if there is something that we can do that's a little bit more formal.
Yeah, it's very simple on YouTube. You just insert a slide. The audio was, there's something wrong with the video where the audio was muted because the video plays just fine and then it gets to the certain point where the students were making the presentation and then where the questions were asked and then it picks right back up. Nobody ever got up and moved.
It was on here.
Oh.
Because I watch to see if there's any issues with people attending. And I thought I was just making sure I was muting my system.
Oh.
But I actually accidentally muted the entire thing.
Oh.
And then I realized that I had done that, so I corrected it. So, yeah, that was from here.
Okay. All right. So we have no audio of the meeting then?
Just that section.
Just that part. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the answer to the issue.
And it's good to know that all the videos are in one spot.
And Trustee Grissom, if I can ask for clarification.
Yeah.
Would that YouTube insertion be prior to uploading it?
No, YouTube has its own tool, so once you upload it to YouTube, there's a, I think they call it a studio now.
Okay.
But you can, works probably similar on the premise of PowerPoint or something. You just simply insert a slide before, you would upload the district logo, basically give it a caption, which would be the meeting date or what have you, type of meeting, and then it would just play that slide in the beginning and then move to the meeting.
Okay. Okay, that's great to know. Thank you.
We have a conversation on the YouTube or any other discussion.
Well, it is really hard.
Sorry, you're good.
A lot of times I go back to listen to what I said, or I think I said, that I go, oh, no, I didn't say that. Anyways, that's why
It's just in my head.
yeah, or I think I said something and I didn't say it. But it's really hard to search because there's no consistency, you know, maybe going forward that we can make the labeling and the titling more consistent with the date. And also, what would be nice, and I understand this is more work, but it's really hard, it's really a jumbled mess, is if we could have playlists by, I was gonna say month would be nice. But at least starting with the year, if we could separate the 2020 meetings from the 2021 meetings, would at least be nice, 2 playlists. And then maybe at some point, with inside those, like when we wrap up October, now we have the October playlist or the whatever. But at least if it was done for the year, that would be great, because sometimes the date is spelled out, sometimes the date is numbers and dots, sometimes it's.
Understood.
Yeah, and sometimes the date's not even there.
Right, yeah.
So you don't really know what you're looking at. So just poke the meetings and.
Yeah.
Okay, I can work for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think I have any other. And I'm happy to help you. I can always do it remotely if you're in the midst of something. I have no problem logging on remotely and walking you through it and showing you, you know, being that we're putting all those requests on you. I have no problem helping you step through that.
YouTube has a lot of YouTube tutorials about how to use it, and I've learned a lot that way myself, so.
YouTube, so YouTube can do it.
That's funny.
I'm still working.
Okay.
Going to YouTube. Any further discussion?
I have.
Moving on to the kite runner permission slip for discussion.
I have none, but I did have a question, Ms. Tyson. Didn't we already approve this? I'm concerned that it's coming back to us again. Was there?
I didn't put it on the.
Oh,
board
okay.
agenda. Sorry.
Actually, it was on the last meeting, and I, because it was under action, and it wasn't an actionable item, it was just something for discussion because, well, apparently 2 or 3 meetings ago, it was brought up that the board should discuss it. And then it got on the board meeting as an action item, but then I tabled it and we were supposed to bring it up in discussion and I forgot. Oh, so I put it back on this meeting for discussion because you were the one that had asked that the board discuss this. I didn't know if there was anything further that needed to be discussed, and I wanted to make sure that all bases were covered and anything that needed to be discussed was.
I think it started at one of the board meetings when, I think when we were approved the book. We talked about this letter and I had shared what it looked like, but I hadn't shared it with the rest of the board. And so you asked me to do that, which I did that evening. And then it came, and then it was on the next board meeting. So I wasn't sure if there was something more that you needed from me.
I don't want to keep the teacher waiting. We're already in October. That's why.
And the teacher who's going to be using the book has chosen not to start the book until second quarter.
Okay.
And then because we've had this ongoing conversation, I am keeping track by quarter and asking our ELA teachers if we have parents who are opting out of any novels, and if so, what those are, which I will bring to you at the end of first quarter, so that you can see right now we don't have any parents who have opted out of anything.
All right, thank you.
Next item up for discussion is the published annual statement.
Can we make sure that that gets put on the next agenda for an action item? That if nobody has anything about it, the kite runner permission slip to do that? No? Okay.
Dr. Meyer had said that it would probably not be prudent for us to approve.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, good. So was my concern. I'm like, oh my gosh, we hold this teacher
Yeah.
responsible. Okay.
Just the book,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
we can do the permission slips, otherwise you would not like the board meeting.
Yeah. Okay,
All the permission slips, yeah.
all right, perfect. Okay, that makes me feel better. Thank you.
So members of the board, the annual statement of financial condition is just a form that we're required to
Okay.
I mean, it's just a form that we're required to publish in the paper by October 28th of each year in Idaho Code. The format is given to us by the State Department of Education. And so that is, we'll just have it for your information on that. It was in the paper on Wednesday the 27th. It's typically, we just make it by a day or two to get it after all the audit, because we can't really do it until the audit's done. And the form that they ask us to use combines all funds. So it doesn't disaggregate it between the general fund and all the other ones, it lumps it all together. But you know, it's a requirement of law, and so we put it in the paper and there it is.
I do have questions. And they shouldn't be too long-winded. But respecting that this is an entire picture for our district, which shows that we have an ending fund balance of $14,066,069. But yet we're only reporting to the public on the general fund. What I'm curious is, of that $14 million by our policy 7050, how much of that is not unassigned? Because it shows that we can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different components for the fund balance, such as non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned.
Correct.
I was curious on that 14 million, how much of it is not unassigned? Or is it all unassigned?
We are, in our financial statements, we're reporting the vast majority of it is unassigned. We have the different categories that are put in financial statements are restricted, means it's restricted by law.
Right.
So if I really wanted to do that, if we want to, or if the auditors wanted to, then the fund balance that we have in our debt service fund, which was about $2 million at the end of the year to make our bond payment in August. So of that 14, 2 is in the debt service fund to make our mortgage payment. We could say that's restricted because it's restricted to the lawful purpose.
Okay.
The auditors and the state hasn't asked us to disaggregate like that, but we could. If we wanted it to be buried in our financial statements, but we could certainly do that. We have committed, means the board has said, we want you to commit this fund balance to a certain task. So we could argue, or we could say that our minimum fund balance is committed to that purpose. And I could disaggregate that part out. So our minimum fund balance, which would be 8.33% in the general fund, would, I don't know that dollar amount to be exact right now, but that could be committed because that's a board policy. So, I mean, if the board wants in our financial statements to have those chunked out, we can. We haven't done that in the past. Assigned, just so you know, is if administration assigns, let's say, a fund balance, then maybe we allow building budgets to roll over from year to year. That's really sort of fund balance rolling. And maybe administration says, no, yeah, so we don't have silly spend at the end. They know they don't have to spend or lose. Well, that's sort of a administration. We could assign it. So a lot of that we could do. We don't have that policy. I'm just using an example. But those are sort of the different levels of designations and fund balance. So if the board wants us to disaggregate those through in future financial statements, we certainly can. Maybe come up with those numbers.
Well, I'm just, the monthly financials that we give to the patrons are solely done on the general fund.
Correct.
And it's, it's not to me a clear picture. This, what was submitted to the paper based off of what, from the audit, et cetera, this is very clear. I mean, we're looking at all the money the district has. We're looking at, not all of it, COVID. Is COVID money not in here?
Well, no, not part of the fund balance, but COVID money is only if we spend it, we receive it. But some of that balance, you can see on that, you see there, I have an adjustment there. Of that $650,000 or something. That wasn't even reported last year because that was student activity funds. And I think that Tony came up here and he said there was a change in GASB where student activity funds are no longer fiduciary funds, but they want to be counted as agency funds. So now they're part of our overall financial picture. Before they weren't. They're more like they're a foundation. That's how all districts, that just happened, the state just taking the fund number that we had to report under. It's new. So some of that, like some people say, why the jump? Well, 650 is just because money that had already been there was never part of our formal audit financial statement too. The activity was audited.
Right.
We did our internal controls, but it was reported. It wasn't reported that way. And that's a GAS accounting change which happened statewide. So I think a lot of times when you look at these numbers, that's actually not more clear. And here's an example. If, let's say, for example, we passed a bond and we're going to build a new school. We would have from 1 year, let's say we had 1 year and we had our normal fund balance, whatever that would be, $40 million. And then the next year we pass the bond and we sell those bonds and collect those resources. And suddenly we collect $30 million, $40 million to build a building. That's sitting in my fund balance because I still have this project that may go for 2 or 3 years that we pay for. It's just like when you borrow your house. So I'm just telling you that form is really not a great form when you really want to compare apples to apples, year to year and things like that. It's not. It's a form required by the state, but it is not, in my opinion, the best form to communicate with the public. But it is law, so that's what we do.
Okay, but I'm just trying to reconcile. I mean, when we're publishing that our fund balance is $14 million, and what we tell patrons on our board meetings is it's only, well, now it'll go up to 6.9 from the budget or from the audit that we just had, but it's actually 14. And from what I'm hearing you say is technically all of that is unassigned until you choose to maybe categorize it either committed or restricted or assigned. I mean, we can put the money where it needs to go, but I think that would help the public to know that we've got some here for this, we've got some here for that, as opposed to just always saying we only have, well, now it would be 6.9 in our fund balance. It just
Trustee Thompson, I mean, this sort of goes off for our audit report for the public. We had the auditor here showing the other funds and those values of that we had $2 million in our debt service fund, that we had over $1 million in our plant facility fund because projects hadn't gone. That information was presented.
Oh, I'm not saying it wasn't. I just know that when we talked a lot about the general fund and that the fund balance is now at 6.9 million, which is phenomenal. But our overall picture is that the fund balance is 14 million. So that's where people get frustrated. Emails that I've received, people that have talked to me, the numbers never seem to correlate. And so
I would encourage anybody who has questions, if they really want to get into the details and stuff like that, please come by my office and I will go over the details with them. I think that a lot of that time when you do that is that depending on what the district is doing at that time, that overall number can drastically change. For example, in a couple of years, our bonds are going to be paid off. We will have no money in the debt service fund. So $2 million of that will go away of that fund balance because we don't have those mortgage payments. suddenly people might look and say, well, gee, where did our $2 million go? So I really think that the most important thing that if we want to really show them our financial health of this district from month to month is our general fund. Because that's where the vast majority, that's our educational program is run through that general fund. And that some of these other projects and funds, you know, can come and go depending on legislative changes with federal programs, with the food service program, with our plant facility fund possibly not going to be in there, and with our debt service fund. So I think that if you want to really see the financial health of the district from a year-to-year basis on how healthy we are, comparison the general fund is the best way to do that.
And not including any of the other funds that we have in informing the public of that.
When the district was at minus $12,000 in the general fund, and we were borrowing to make payroll, we had several $1 million in our debt service fund. So that can give I don't think a clear picture of that time of the struggles the district was having, but by law, we cannot spend debt service fund. We've actually, on our the district gives its full faith that the only thing that debt service fund will be used on is to pay that mortgage.
Right.
Okay, and their general obligation bonds, and we say that we are not gonna grab that just for a couple months to pay this expense, because no one's okay. So so if I reported that full one, at the end of that year, it wouldn't have been minus 12,000, we would have had several $1 million.
Well, yeah, the year prior to the minus 12, I believe, according to the report that we were shown, it was $141,000 that we were behind.
Correct. But overall, the overall fund of that, if you look at all the funds put together, it was greater than that amount. But we can't use those dollars for general payroll, or there might be a cash flow problem. So I really think is that as districts and as, you know, school districts in Idaho, that you really want to be able to, if you really want to give the public the financial health of the district, and the most accurate way to determine that from a month-to-month basis and how we're tracking is by looking at the general fund.
So by only looking at a portion of the funds.
I'm saying looking at our primary fund that we run our educational program through. That's my opinion. I mean, I can, you know, there's, you know, districts that have huge capital campaigns out there that have to go for that, but they may be way overstaffed, bleeding in the general fund, and they're operating and having those concerns. But if you just look at it all together, they look like they'd be fine, but they're not. So I think you really have to, the most important thing, what I want to be able to do, and what the guy like sort of trained me as a finance director said, what you want the board to know and the public to know when you're doing these monthly reports and stuff, is you don't want, to the extent you can, you don't want surprises. You want to be able to say, from month to month, well, is our salary expenses or our main expenses, are they sort of tracking what we thought was going to happen? If they're not, why? You know, and if we don't know yet, well, let's investigate it. The vast majority of our activity sort of happens through there. My debt service fund, I have 2 payments a year. My big one is in August. So by including that $2 million that's sitting there, or whatever that is, between my 2 payments every year, I don't think is giving an accurate picture, really, of our ongoing operating expenses.
Right, but there have been, I mean, especially through COVID, when expenses have been presented to the board that these are our monthly expenses, and then I know I have often asked, well, is that coming out of the general fund? And you're like, no, that's coming out over here. That's coming out of COVID money. Or, you know, all the computers, no, that's coming out of the tech fund. So to me, I struggle because we say general fund, but then we present bills that come out of other funds. People don't see those funds, and it's not, in my opinion, a very clear picture of our district. It's one fund, but then you have all these expenses that may or may not come out of it, because you are providing us with that information, but it's not balancing. I mean, we've gone to where we've added the year-to-date budget, and you're showing the monthlies where they kind of plug, but they don't also reconcile all the time because there's other funds that the public either isn't aware of, or we're only going to tell them once a year on what we publish in the newspaper. So I mean, we tout that we want to be transparent and open, and when we're telling them all we have is the 5 million, or now 6.9 from the audit, I don't think it's an accurate picture.
Well, and I think some, if some people have questions, if they are not there, they can certainly have the questions. I never say we only have the 6 million. I think when it's clear whenever we come for bus purchases, I say that's coming out of the transportation vehicle fund. And that's a fund provided by the state, and we actually transfer $250,000 from the general fund or from the plant fund over there. So I think when we're having major purchases, we're clear. When you get the bill list, and you see the Chartwell's bill for several $100,000 or $150,000 every month. Well, that's coming from the food fund, from Fund 290, the food service fund that's required we have to do for child nutrition, how the state asks us to code it. So I don't think we're not being transparent. It's just we're following there. If the board wanted us to do a report on every fund every month, we certainly can do that. I might need another staff member. It'd be quite significant. But if you think that would be more clear, we can do that. I'm just telling you that's not typical in most monthly reports for Idaho school districts to boards.
On this all funds, you have your revenues listed and your expenditures listed. It's very clear cut, clean cut, whatever word you want to use. And it, in a sense, parallels what we have that we provide every month on the general fund. And you do list your codes off to the sides of the sources, and it does parallel this. So I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel or have to hire an additional staff. Maybe it should be something further that the board discusses.
I mean, if the board wants a second report on all funds, okay. I mean, if you want to report on all funds, we could, perhaps aggregate that also.
Well, I think having all the funds available for people to see is a good thing. If you have some requests and email for that, and I'd certainly like to see that. So I think that it does warrant more discussion amongst the board members.
Okay.
I just have one question for you, Mr. Rolls. So the 14 million, how much of that is discretionary?
Well, it's, we have the 6.9 of the general fund. We have, I think, a little over 2 million in the plant fund. I think off the top of my head, we had over $1 million in the plant facility fund. We had $700,000 in the food service fund. We had $650.
Right, those are discretionary.
No, they're not discretionary.
Right. Okay, so
right.
Of the 14 million, how much is discretionary?
I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, discretionary where we could just spend.
Right. The board would say, hey, take out of this fund to pay for this or that. Like you're mentioning all these funds, which, whether you want to call it restricted or not restricted, we've set aside this much money to pay for these things. So what I'm asking is, of this 14 million, how much is not set aside for a particular use? It's just.
Most of that would be the general fund, like 6.9 million is really what we haven't set aside, except for the minimum fund balance of that half. So half, 3 million of it would be set aside for minimum fund balance.
So there's just no place for those funds where a portion of this 14 million is allocated, set aside, whatever you want to call it, there is nothing on this form to show that that is a set aside?
No, not in that form. If you looked, in fact, I don't like that. I mean, if you look at the even that first form that you have for budget, you know, that has the years and that has committed under there, you know which form we're talking about?
Yep.
See, I really don't like that form either because it, you know, it doesn't even say unassigned, it says unappropriated. You know, I don't even like the language that they use, but that's the form we have to use. I really like the monthly budget status report that they have for Washington districts. I like better because on the fund and that, they actually did list committed, restricted, committed to minimum fund balance policy. That adds actually with a line item on it. We could add some of those things. And I thought that was more transparent, and they followed financial statement language of GASB. See, Idaho doesn't follow financial statement language for the schools, and it sort of drives me nuts because it causes some of this confusion.
Right.
A lot of, if we're at 6.9 million, the rest of the 14, all of that is effectively restricted or committed. It's restricted to the use of that fund that has to be. So if we have a large food service fund balance in Fund 290, which we do because last year with all the participation, I mean, it's higher than it's ever been. That is restricted to the food service program. I could not go hire a teacher with that fund. It's against the law.
Right.
Same thing with our plant facility fund. I cannot hire staff and get over the million. Debt service fund, I can't hire. So that's all restricted to the legal use of that fund. So of the 14, you know, over half of it is effectively restricted. I hope that answers.
Yeah, that did answer my question. Yes, and I you know, I'm pleased to all this. I didn't. I was just wondering how much was discretionary or not discretionary. And that was it.
And I think discretionary is important too. Is that, you know, really to the extent, and why we try to do that is that, you know, we're to the extent we can as administrators make these daily decisions, unless it's a major thing to come to the board, we're trying to stay within the budget.
Sure.
And not have to go tag into fund balance. We're trying to say, okay, well, here's our budget. Let's see, you know, let's stay our expenditures.
Right. Or we have this other pot of money from some ESSER fund or COVID.
Right, and these have been really unique years, and that's not typical, but we're suddenly, you know, you get this grant for a significant amount of money. But let's say we did get a grant mid-year, well, yeah, then you might, you know, use it for that grant purposes. For, let's say there was a, here's, you know, sometimes things can happen. There was a time when I was working for the East Valley School District when Kaiser Aluminum went out of business. And they didn't pay property taxes for years. And then they sort of came out of Chapter 11 or Chapter 13. And the Trent Rolling Mill sort of came back online. And it wasn't the rolling, they were making a different type of aluminum, but they came out of bankruptcy. Well, the first thing to come out, you know, the property taxes are going to be the first one in line, of course.
Right.
And so suddenly the school district, we had got like an $800,000 back taxes they hadn't paid for several years. And I was like, wow, that was unexpected. That didn't happen. And so then, since that was such an unexpected thing, and it went to the general fund, then the superintendent time then went to the board and said, you know, do you want to do any projects with it? Do you want to just keep it? Do you want to do things like that? Because it was unexpected. So something, you know, things like that can happen in the middle of the year, but it's not really, for all this COVID grants, it's not common for public agencies. No.
That's why we do this every
Unless somebody
year.
wins the lottery and then.
Yeah.
Then they won't be in this room, I guarantee it. I have
Okay.
further question, I don't know.
No, I don't. All right, thank you for your.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item for discussion is the job description for custodian of records. It was brought to my attention that the custodian of records does not have to be the board clerk. It can be anyone within the district or that's hired for that position. So I think it would be prudent to have the custodian of records have a job description so that whether it is the clerk or whether it is someone that's filling in or being hired for that position, they have a specific job description. I do know, that there are some descriptions for clerk or custodian of records under the clerk of the board job description. So we would need a clerk, custodian of job, custodian of records job description needs to be prepared. Yes. Okay. Shall we also HR director?
She's writing feverishly.
She's writing. And then, of course, that would then in turn modify the clerk of the board's job description because we'd take out the custodian responsibilities from the clerk of the board. Okay. So that is, that concludes points for discussion. Is there any input for future agenda items?
Maybe off the top of my head.
Needs to be said, because the last couple of times I'm like, out loud, it's like, oh wait.
I have nothing. No, I do not have anything else.
Okay, and that concludes our meeting.
Wait,
We have to go into.
we need to go into executive session.
What did I do?
You're just gonna do it all.
So,
Okay, call back to order.
Bring us back.
Okay, I'm gonna call us back to order, just like that. All right. I need a motion, I'll entertain a motion regarding executive session.
I make a motion to move into executive session for Idaho Code 742061B.
Second that. Hearing a motion in a second, we need a roll call vote.
Trustee Day,
Yes.
Trustee Grissom,
Yes.
Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Trustee Betts.
Thank you. Okay.
Trustee you.
Trustee, what's your name?
Trustee you.
I was trying to. We're coming out of executive session. No decisions were made or discussed in executive session. Now is the time to entertain any motions regarding what was discussed in executive session.
I'll make a motion to release certified employee 10/28/21A from their 2021-2022 contract.
I'll second that. Hearing the motion in a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And that concludes our meeting. It's 8:10.
That wasn't too bad.
I was thinking the same thing.
That was incredibly long and different, and the executive session, that was
Like first lieutenant was like.
Not 10 or 11.